Let's roll.
We're rolling.
Yeah.
We're rolling.
Right.
Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Simon. Welcome to the Impact Narrative,
Indeed.
episode 11, is it? I think we're in double figures.
I think we are. It feels good.
Yeah, oh, we've survived this long.
We have indeed,
Long
but
way.
alas, the plant hasn't.
No.
The plant, as regular viewers will see, has taken a turn for the worse.
That regular viewers won't see.
Well,
You
yeah.
mean the plant that regular viewers have seen
Have
is
seen.
no longer visible. We can see it, but it's
We
looking
can.
tattered and
It looks a little bit like it's had.
it had a haircut, a bit like...
Well, I was going to say a tete-a-tete with a shady Russian operative, but that might be a little bit libelous.
yes, I think, well, or tasteless,
Well,
like the plant probably is.
I did have an invitation to go and meet an ambassador last week, and I forgot to tell you about this.
Right,
But I had an invitation to meet the ambassador, and
the ambassador.
the ambassador of a particular state. I'm not going to name which one.
Okay.
But in the dialogue, trying to set up this meeting, there were some mistakes made by the administrator, the official, and they apologised and said they're just going to nip to the Russian embassy and just get some of, and referred to the nerve agent, by way of punishing themselves, which was odd.
So, what is this an example of some person who's more tasteless than...
Indeed.
Right.
So on the
Right.
scale of tasteless jokes,
Yeah.
I think I'm an amateur.
Yeah, but you've been mixing in the wrong circles. The diplomatic community specialises, obviously, in totally tactless and
Apparently so.
unpleasant jokes.
So anyway,
So I think you should see a little bit less of them, because maybe, their company may be rubbing off on you a little bit.
might be dangerous.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yes.
yes,
But we're going to start with your favourite subject, which is social media. So I
Well,
think, Simon,
yeah.
I'll ask you lots of questions.
Please, Mark, go first. You can.
Are you surprised by the revelations about Facebook?
No.
No. Next question. Why not?
I think that it's quite an interesting but unsurprising news story that's broken, that this company, Cambridge Analytica, has been working with an academic from Cambridge to, well, I would say allegedly, but I think it's pretty clear now. The whistleblower has documented this in some detail, the extent to which millions of users, 50 million Facebook user profiles have been harvested, is the term.
Yes.
And I was reading up on how this has happened, and it's deeply worrying, but it's not in any way surprising, given that Facebook opened itself out to these third-party vendors, these third-party apps, and you, being a regular Facebook user,
Indeed.
will be all too aware of things like Farmville, and yeah, I've walked
I'm
into
up to
your
my
office
neck
and,
in Farmville.
well, I had my suspicions.
Anyway, I'm
And,
sure these things exist.
Well, they do. There are a myriad of them, and what it does
Right.
is each of these third-party apps gives the app developer access to friend circles, and this is obviously written in the fine print, the contractual print that people have to
Never read.
sign or acknowledge that they have read,
Yeah.
and yet never read.
But they're also impatient to get on with showing off their children's exploits and things on this Facebook site.
On the
which-
Facebook.
That they never
Yeah.
read. Even if they were inclined to read it, they're always in a great hurry to get on with the amazingly rewarding and soul-nourishing activities that
Indeed.
Facebook offers. The human contacts and, the deep relationships that one can develop with other consumers whose information
yeah.
will be harvested.
But it's fascinating if you think about it in terms of geographies of time and space, and Facebook has collapsed everything into this series of interconnected relationships that exist across time and across space, simultaneously at the local and at the global, and it's, I guess, the epitome of the globalized world.
Well, it is for you, because
For someone who's on it.
all your chums on Facebook will be from all over the embassies throughout the world.
Indeed.
But ordinary people, I think, are friends with people that they generally see anyway, aren't they? And they just use it to show off.
And
They go on holiday and have one really exciting half hour, and they put loads of pictures on saying,
From
"This is
said
our
half
life.
hour, yeah.
Please be envious."
Well, I should say
What
that I
a
deleted
sad-
my Facebook because of some of these concerns. Because of some of these
Right,
concerns
you were ahead
about
of the
privacy.
curve.
I was.
Right.
And because of some efforts to hack my page.
Ah.
But that's neither here nor there, and a conversation for another episode.
But why would they hack your page? What, and put false episodes on? Like, here's me on holiday and you sort of looking really grim.
Possibly.
Just to lose face with all your multitudes of
I
friends.
will tell you off air, Mark. I'll tell you.
Okay, right, yeah. Well, I'm looking
stop
forward to
rolling,
this.
And, yeah.
And so they don't harvest tweet.
They don't
things.
harvest tweets. I'm sure many people do, but what's interesting about Facebook compared to Twitter is that there is obviously a lot of personal data that's on it, and the way that it's worked with Cambridge Analytica and this academic at Cambridge is they've developed an algorithm that allows people to track, or it allows them to track personal preferences and create a psychological profile of individuals.
The things you like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
From the things that you like, they're able to ascertain gender, sexuality, political preference, and myriad other things. And of course, that has helped to sway elections.
But then it's self-selecting. You're lining yourself up for being. You're screaming out, "Please harvest me," aren't you? By saying that
being on Facebook.
By caring enough about some random statement somebody has written to like it.
Well, perhaps. Yeah.
Like apple pie, like.
Well, I do like apple pie.
Well, yeah, but so do
Travelling
50
back from
million
Sweden,
others.
I had a wonderful apple pie with whipped cream.
Yeah.
And,
They allowed you to eat that, unlike the cigarette.
Indeed. Well, I was
Scandal.
never going to eat the cigarettes, but
No, harvest them. Right, anyway, yeah, so what if somebody, I'm asking you a question here, what if somebody thinks, first of all, this is just a shortcut to doing what you could do, and people, you could, if you had time and, a separate life, you could go round and knock on people's doors and give them a survey, and then you would be able to harvest the results of the survey. So it's just a lazy person's way of trying to contact people who, in this case, this whole fuss is because of Trump, isn't it? I mean, if this had been done by the Clinton campaign, then people would have said, "Oh, good, they're ahead of the curve."
I'm not sure that's entirely what it's about. Obviously, there's the manipulation of the US election. That's key. That's a prominent part of this story. But there's also, I think, the bigger issue is the breach of privacy laws. There's debate about the breach of data protection laws in the UK. There's debate about the breach of all sorts of data laws in the US. And your point about going from door to door asking people is a good one.
Of course.
But that implies that there is a degree of consent, that individuals will give their consent to participate in this survey.
Can I continue to play devil's advocate on this?
Continue.
I mean, if you are so egotistical that you care enough about your opinion to say, I like a comment that says something like, I would like a populist with false hair to become president, like, whatever, well then you're extrovert and bored enough to fill in a questionnaire that somebody came out. And the thing about the data protection and whatever, the extra long form that nobody reads is at least, I guess, presented to people, and it's their choice not to bother reading it. They're just too impatient to get on with Facebooking.
Perhaps, but even that long form that nobody reads, that does not give people the right to harvest the personal data of friends. Because the way this worked is that Cambridge Analytica and the company paid for certain people to do a psychological test.
Yeah.
And that, from there, gave them access to all of the friends and all of the extra data.
Yeah,
and
but the friends, if they're on Facebook, will no doubt also be confronted with the form that they couldn't be bothered to read.
Well, they will, but even that form does not say that their data can be used by third parties, or can indeed be sold, or harvested, or harnessed, or any type of adjective or verb.
Beginning with H-A, H-A-R.
To use that data.
Right.
And I think that the big issue here is consent and the stealing of data. That you're consenting to put yourself out there. Your extroverted activity is out there, demonstrating, yes, I am interested in this, and I display my liking of this. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I am then consenting you to do with that what I would consent to someone who fills
okay,
a
well,
survey.
you've sort of dealt with that in a way, but then the next point is people have been saying glibly this is all about brainwashing, but if you know, it's not like the scenes which we saw in Russia, where ballot boxes seemed to being padded out with tissue paper of some kind. I'm not sure what it was. These people still have to read the stuff that is sent to them by the harvesters and go, I am now a zombie, I'm going to vote for a false-haired populist, even though, you know, I may not otherwise have done so. My behaviour has been changed by these mind controllers. I mean, if there are people like this, first of all, it's a sad day for democracy is a bit late, because there are too many sad days for democracy, but it's just another day in the life of liberal democracy, is it not? Where gullible people, first of all, are gullible enough to go on this ridiculous Facebook thing, but also then are so gullible that they'll just instantly fall for any message which says, you know, Hillary Clinton is a crook or something, therefore vote for the other.
I would agree with you to an extent, particularly about the sad day for democracy, but I think it demonstrates the political apathy of the electorate.
Which is not the fault of Facebook, is it? And they're just making money out of other people's apathy, which is, you know, hats off to them.
I mean, with Facebook, the issue
That's called capitalism generally, isn't it, really? Making money out of other people's...
I think so.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
I think the point with Facebook is that they were perhaps more guilty of complicity and ethical, serious ethical failings with regard to data storage, and that there are reports that senior figures in Facebook were told something isn't right here, do we know what these third parties are doing with this data? And the suggested reply was, don't look too hard, you might not like what you find out.
Right.
And so they are demonstrating their innocence, if you will, through not exploring this in any more detail. So I think it's a worrying issue, and
but I mean, underneath this is that there is no such thing. Again, you know, I'm obviously playing the capitalist devil's advocate here. There is no such thing as a free lunch, and yet this Facebook thing is free, and it had to be capitalized, or whatever the word is, monetarized.
It was monetarized.
And the way of monetarizing it is selling everyone's private details, which are not private because they put it on Facebook.
Well, it's monetized through adverts. It's monetized through the sale of apps, and I think that there was an implicit trust that data would be safe, and I think that's misguided.
Yeah.
Completely misguided.
Well, for people to think that there is any such thing as a free lunch. Anyway, very interesting
Mark, you
stuff.
mentioned something about supporting a false-haired populist.
Something like that, yeah.
Do we know that it's false hair?
Well, I mean, it's false. No hair is like that, is it? No hair in the history of humanity.
Well, I don't think I'm particularly qualified to judge this, but I wonder, has there been evidence to say this is a...
I think one day we'll know. Truth will come out. But there are other more serious... Are we going to go on then about the US very briefly?
Yeah,
about sacking everyone, and which
sacking everyone?
Mr. Perfectly Genuine Hair has been doing recently. Anyone who's ever worked for him in any capacity has been sacked in the last week.
Right. Well, you're talking, of course, about Mr. Tillerson.
Well, yeah, but the others have since, haven't they? Oh no, he's going to try and get rid of Thingamajig, who's running the investigation into his...
the dealings with Russia.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Well,
I think it's probably best to steer clear of that one for now, Mark.
Well, can't we be ahead of the curve? That's the third time I've used that phrase. By saying, because he's not going to... Clearly what's happened is that he thinks he walks on water because of the North Korea situation. The next thing he wants to talk about is Saudi Arabia, isn't it? He's obviously feeling that he's on a bit of a roll, and so he can basically get rid of people who may be obstructive in some way.
Perhaps.
Which don't include your friend, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. He's quite happy with him, isn't he?
I think he's very happy with him because, well, he's there in the US. He's in the US for 3 weeks. Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. He's doing a tour, a backpacking tour of the West Coast, I think.
Yeah, fresh from his youth hosteling in Britain.
Indeed. No, he had a press conference with Trump yesterday, Mr. Trump, in the White House. And if you've not seen it, this was one of the most bizarre press conferences between two world leaders that I've ever seen.
Really?
it was. I mean, you sound surprised.
Well, I mean, because there've been quite a few bizarre ones, haven't there?
Well,
Including this person with perfectly genuine hair. So he's set new standards with this
he
press
has.
conference.
Yeah, he has. There was the two of them were sitting much as we are.
Right.
Mr. Trump to the left.
Plant in front of them.
This doesn't bode well for me. But anyway, it was a case of Mr. Trump talking about how much he valued the friendship between not only Saudi Arabia and the US, but himself and the Crown Prince. So they're saying that this is a very personal relationship.
Right.
That is couched in economic concerns, but it's also
As
driven
most
by,
friendships are.
Oh, of course. Unless you don't buy cigarettes.
Yeah, you've got to monetize your friendships, haven't you, really?
But he said that
And
it's also
harvest them.
driven by security concerns and defence concerns. And at which point he picked up a poster, sort of an
Right.
A2 poster.
I hope other viewers haven't seen this because it's very visual.
It is.
I'm not going
And-
to bother watching it now because
and
I feel I was there.
On the poster were prints of the various things that had been sold to the Saudis. The various military pieces of kit that had been sold to the Saudis.
Right.
And it looked like it had been put together by an 11-year-old.
Right.
It was done in sort of Comic Sans with a coloured background. It wasn't laminated.
Ouch.
And then he proceeded to pick up another one and another one. It was toe curling, and you could see the Crown Prince just sort of reclining and trying to retreat back into himself, and barely looking at the camera out of fear that. Is this
I will
really
look it up
happening?
now.
It's well worth a watch.
So they're kind of childish drawings of tanks and things, or are they sort of, they are pictures?
It's a picture that one
A-
might
a
cut out
collage.
of a magazine.
Right.
So
Wow.
very, very odd.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting
Memorable.
times, and one thing that should be brought up in that visit that probably won't be is the events in Yemen, Saudi's air campaign that is supported by the US and the UK through both the sale of arms but also logistical support, targeting, general command and control advice. So that should be on the table, that should be a source of conversation, but I doubt it will be.
Good.
For some reason.
No, yes, for a multitude of reasons.
Yeah, about 700 billion of them, if you can believe Mr. Trump.
Right.
That was the figure that he was
Yeah.
putting forward.
For the value of the trade
For the value
between...
of all of this trade,
Yeah.
So not only trade, but obviously the creation of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, billions of new jobs. The figure seemed to increase every time it was mentioned.
Good.
Mark, Brexit.
Yeah, oh well, this is a fishy story now. That obviously it seems like where are we in this relentlessly interesting saga?
We're almost a year out.
Well, it seems like, yeah, exactly, and it seems, well, we're another 2 years because of transition. It seems like the arrangements have been put in place or nearly, for the way in which the relationship will go during the 2-year or endlessly prolongable transition. And amongst the agreements is one which means that the fishing quotas will be just as they were when we were under the jackboot of the Brussels bureaucrats.
Right.
In other words, not selling down the river, because this is a sea rather than a river. This is offshore fishing, but still
North Sea fishing.
a lot of people who thought that the referendum would be followed the next morning by a reclaiming of Britain's historic fishing rights are now contemplating this not happening until 2021 or whatever, or even further beyond. And so there are a lot of red-faced with rage Brexiteers, and there's been a demonstration this morning where the members of the fishing community have been throwing fish into the Thames, and
Seems like a waste.
yeah. But then, of course, if it's fish that exceeds their quota, then they can't do anything other with them.
Yeah,
And I mean, it always was.
this done outside of Parliament?
Yeah.
Excellent. I do like a good flotilla going down the Thames and
Yeah. Well, there have been similar flotillas, and with a different cast of protesters in the past. And fish, no doubt. But I mean, obviously being very flippant about it, but I would have thought that there's complexities about the whole fishing thing, which people miss completely, in that a lot of our rights were sold to European whatever. However, you know, the fact is that if Brexit was going to bring anything, then some kind of rearrangement, because it's quite clear that Britain being an island, the fishing rights that Britain could enjoy, potentially, or whatever, have been whittled away as part of, you know, Britain has felt that it's been generous with allowing fishing rights to other countries in return for other things, and those other things haven't really ever been forthcoming. So it's one of those things where you would imagine the government would have prioritised getting our fish back. You know? And of course they haven't. But they might do after the transition, but it's setting a precedent in which fishing rights are going to be seen as a bargaining chip, and the people who are concerned, whose livelihoods are concerned, don't necessarily are entitled to think of themselves as something more than just bargaining chips.
Yeah.
Bargaining fish and chips.
Indeed. What's making me hungry now? All of this talk of fish.
So where next? Apart from that, and of course the Russia thing. Are we going to talk a bit about that?
We spoke a bit about that last week, I think.
Yeah, we sort of have. But no, the thing that's interesting, I think last week I was quite, outspoken, which is unusual. And of course our views have nothing at all to do with the university. But I think I seem to remember saying something like Britain is basically a vassal state of Russia, and that it is unable to do anything effective. And, well, how right what was interesting was that the Russians kind of expelled the same number. 23 is the magic number. You know, obviously Britain had 23 very malevolent people working in the embassy to match. Yeah, they obviously thought Russia's got 23 naughty people, so we'll have 23 naughty, and that makes it all so symmetrical when you come to expel these naughty people. But of course the Russians, in addition, closed down the British Council, whatever, in St. Petersburg as well as and in other words, you know, they took advantage of this to get rid of an outlet of what Russia might see as propaganda, but we might see as soft power. It's, you know, whereas what's happened with the Russian embassy has made no difference at all to Russia's soft power in Britain. The British Council is an absolutely key element of our soft power, and the Russians, so it's kind of, let's say, an away goals win for Russia. Despite the fact that it was us wielding the big stick and getting all our allies in line, and of course the allies have been extremely reluctant to come in line, and still Mr. Trump hasn't Facebooked or tweeted on this subject. He's tweeted on a lot of other ridiculous subjects, in my view, but not this really important one, which I think speaks volumes.
But the other thing that I wanted to flag up is the idea that there's talk of putting sanctions on Putin's inner circle, but if that's done by the British government, that will have an even more detrimental impact on British soft power, because as soon as you look at that inner circle, it includes people such as Roman Abramovich,
who we mentioned last week, naughtily. And
a number of other people who've got prominent holdings in British football clubs, in the Premier League. The Premier League is a prominent tool of British soft power.
Yeah, but I mean, I think there are buyers waiting in case these people drop out. I think that, and maybe the Crown Prince would like to.
Perhaps.
Maybe he's an aficionado of
I'm sure he's an Arsenal
the glorious game. Probably, most of them are in the Middle East, don't they? They seem to have a thing about. I was going to say he'll be very keen because they're the Gunners, obviously, and he's bought one of those according to the diagram. So maybe that's where the link comes. Yeah. So
I think it's worrying times. But there was an interesting.
And of course, Arsenal. Yes, of course, Arsenal is. Arsenal, so that's why you're bothered.
CSKA Moscow.
Whereas we've got Mike Ashley, who's homegrown in every respect.
Of course, we've got CSKA Moscow in the Europa League quarterfinals. So there's going to be a trip to Moscow for some British fans in a couple of weeks, which will not be.
Well, no, because the heat seems to have kind of gone out of this. It's almost as if they've, we've marched our diplomats up to the top of the hill and marched them down again. Very, very strange, but we kind of predicted that that's what would happen. And obviously there are international experts arrived to kind of evaluate the nature of the substance, but the heat has gone out of it.
Until it comes
not the
out
substance.
That the substance was only traceable back to.
But I think everyone knows that already. That's the point. The outrage, and of course the Corbyn, the attempt to stir up animosity towards Corbyn. Again, it's just confirming what. It's just entrenching
yeah.
views that were already held about
Sure.
Corbyn. I don't think anyone is going to say, "Oh, Jeremy Corbyn's cautious about having a fight with Russia." I don't think that that's going to put them off.
Yeah, I would agree. But on that note, Mark, we are rapidly running out of time.
Well, but all our favourite things have gone.
They
Book
have.
of the week.
Book of the week,
Bianca
Mark.
is going to be very sad. What am I reading? I'm reading a very old book. So what are you reading?
I've just finished a book
about Nazi Germany.
Indeed.
Right.
A book called Prussian Blue by Philip Kerr, which was excellent.
Is he a pseudonym? Is that a pseudonym for you? Because
I have mentioned him a lot.
you have, rather suspiciously, Philip.
I wish.
Phil.
Yeah, to my mates, or Lip. No, it was excellent. It does a really good job of
Refreshing.
tracing Nazi sentiments and the clashing of Nazi ideology, fascism, communism, and democracy, and it all comes together in a nice big Kulturkampf, I think.
Wow. Well, I feel I'm flicking through the pages already.
It's a real page turner.
Give me the chance to like it on Facebook.
But
now.
more interesting to you is that while I was travelling, I was reading a collection of essays from A.J.P. Taylor.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
Just a collection of reflections from the TLS and various other places, which was wonderful.
Right. Well, he is a bit of a.
I know you're a big fan.
A bit of a god. Yes, indeed. I probably prefer him even to Phil.
Possibly. On that note, anyway.
Is that the note? Is
That's
that the finish?
note. Yes.
Okay, nothing about Arsenal apart from their defeat coming up. Is that this week? Next
Next
week? Right, okay.
Next week.
We
We
can-
can talk more about that in coming...
Coming time. Well, it's holiday time now.
Oh,
So,
well.
Anyway.
In which case, we'll see you on the other side. In the meantime, do what you can. Like us on
Facebook!
Maybe not
Yay!
Facebook. And,
Harvest yourselves.
indeed. And we will be back soon on the Impact Narrative. Thanks for watching.